The Florida Panthers controlled play for most of Thursday night's game, but puck luck was not on their side as the Nashville Predators took a 6-minute stretch to take the lead and never let down from there. On today's show, where we are gonna talk about the loss, and we're gonna prepare for Friday's trade deadline on today's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Friday, March 3rd edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're to our team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez, and you can follow me on Twitter at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on Twitter at LO_FLA Panthers. Don't forget to also subscribe to the YouTube channel Locked On Panthers and send in your 5-star rating to whichever podcast app you listen to, Locked On Panthers, and your subscription to the YouTube channel to me at LO_FLA Panthers on Twitter, or email it to me at lockedonflapanthers@gmail.com for your chance to win 2 free tickets to the Florida Panthers versus Chicago Blackhawks game on March 10th. Best of luck, everybody. So the Florida Panthers, this was an opportunity for them to just pick up kind of where they left off on Tuesday night's game against the Tampa Bay Lightning, which on paper, when Jacob and I spoke about it on Wednesday, on paper, it seemed that the Florida Panthers should have had the advantage with the various trades that the Nashville Predators made towards the trade deadline, but just a 6-minute stretch for the Predators was the difference in this one. And the Florida Panthers just controlled play for the rest of the way, and just puck luck wasn't on their side for this one tonight. But it is a Fairbanks Friday edition of the show, which means Nick Fairbanks is back on this Friday edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Nick, what's the word?
2 rough shows in a row, man. I don't know. I kind of feel I'm a little emotional right now, but I'm trying to come back to reality and put myself in check, just because, like, we kind of, in a way, kind of knew this was going to happen. Like, it was too good to be true. We didn't believe what was going to happen against Tampa Bay, and they look wonderful. They look great. And then to come in here with a depleted Nashville Predators team, not even playing their number 1 goalie, I think that pretty much sums up this season, to be honest with you. So, other than that, I'm glad to be back. So, thank you.
Great opening statement by you, my friend, because you just never know what you're gonna get out of this team night in and night out. You think about all the big wins of the season. You talk about Boston, Carolina right before Thanksgiving, Tampa Bay on Tuesday night, and all. And you think of the amount of trades that they made. I mean, we were even saying it yesterday. I mean, I said no excuses in our chat saying when Mikael Granlund got traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins. And, we spoke about Matthias Ekholm going to Edmonton and all. And just no Philip Forsberg again. Neither. Roman Josi is still a problem. He got 2 assists on the night, too. And just the amount of times that the Panthers were having one-and-dones, missing the net, every time they attempted to dump and chase, the Nashville Predators were there to defend it and win the board battle to exit the zone, too. And really, it was it was the first period that lost this game for the Panthers. And it's not just by the 2-0 score, but what happened in between of controlling the puck and not getting it on the tape too, and of course missing the net.
Nashville played a very simplified, straightforward game. They clogged the neutral zone. They clogged any of the passing routes or lanes, and they blocked a ton of shots. I mean, outside of Florida not hitting the net at all, and just trying to play the dump and chase game, they had no chance. Nashville played your typical, New Jersey Devil, 1990s, early 2000s style of game where we're going to play boring, we're going to play simple, we're going to make sure we defend and make sure you guys turn the puck over, and we'll score off of those turnovers. And look what happened. So, sometimes it's hard to overcome that when a team really has nothing to lose, but they play the right way. And, Florida, for whatever reason, just couldn't really adapt. They didn't seem like they were overly impressed or overly wanting to play tonight. I mean, first period, lost them the game. They didn't look inspired whatsoever. They probably got ripped in the intermission by Paul Maurice or the coaching staff or whoever decided to stand up. They looked better in the second period, and then the third period was just more of the same, like, hey, we have some chances, but Nashville's just going to continue and continue and continue to just defend and, just make sure the house is protected. And unfortunately, Florida never really had a chance.
Yeah, and we spoke about the dump and chase taking away the neutral zone, and I said this as the first period ended, that the stall line can't be your best line.
They've been the best line for a while.
I don't care if there's no Sam Bennett. I don't care if there's no Sasha Barkov there. Paul Maurice, I noticed that he started the game with that line, opening faceoff, based on rewarding them for how they played against Tampa Bay. But that cannot be your best line when you are putting this team out on the ice. Yes, I know Lindell's struggled. I know that sometimes that Verhaeghe can be a little cold here and there. I know he has 30 goals, but still, that stall line cannot be your best line on the ice.
No, and what's really worrying recently is that they've been the best line. To be honest with you, they're the best line against Tampa. They're the ones that were really dictating the play, really actually going in and winning board battles. They made that game go. And then finally, the first line kind of put some things together. Lundell scored. But outside of that line, there was nothing going on tonight. Duclair, I thought, looked really good for maybe his third game back. He was flying. He was creating chances, which I'm really happy to see. I honestly didn't know if he was going to be timid coming back, with that whole mentality thing of coming back from a major injury like that. But it just seemed like that line, the stall line, and Verhaeghe played well tonight, just couldn't score. And Duclair were just the top players. Bob played really well tonight in spots that he needed to. Had he not made those 3 saves before the Panthers scored their first goal or their only goal tonight, could have been a way different game. So, again, he's playing well and he's giving them a chance to win. The team just needs to find a way to grind it out, or, as Paul Maurice says, or they need to start really taking it to other teams and play the transition game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely wasn't there with passes with pucks constantly broken up. I mean, you think about it, only one penalty called in the game, which was a fairly clean game. I wasn't really looking at anything, and there wasn't really anything complaint worthy in this game about really calls. But you think about the Predators scoring on the power play like 7 seconds in. Roman Josi was driving to the net, and it was going to be a delayed call anyway. Right before John Leonard, who was called up after Granlund was traded, he was a call up and he scores. So pouring some salt into the wound, and the Panthers just the 5-on-5 analytics look good in their favor, but with the amount of possession time and the amount of shots they put up in their last 3 games alone. 50 in again, 55 against Anaheim, 50 against Buffalo, 41 against Tampa Bay. But the difference in this one was the bodies in front too.
Mm-hmm.
And Sam Reinhart, I have to put a little bit of blame on him in this one
Mm-hmm.
too. There was twice in like a minute span where he had a grade A chance right in front. Doesn't even give Lankinen a chance to make a save.
He's been snake bitten recently, and you have to wonder what's going on. I mean, I know he goes through cold spells and everything, but this is usually the time, even last season, where he was one of the shining players. He would help get the team through, or he'd score a pivotal goal to get the team turned around, and it's not the case this season. And you have to kind of wonder, with the chatter going around possibly of his name floating around, being linked to possible trades tomorrow, which we'll get into later. You have to wonder if that's weighing on him a little bit. But at the end of the day, you have to come in, you have to do your work, and you have to, put your best foot forward. And unfortunately, the first line hasn't been the first line, and people that have needed to come to play to really put the team in the best position possible haven't been there.
Certainly have not, but yeah, it certainly has not for this team, and the team only falls behind a little bit more after tonight's 2-1 loss against the Nashville Predators. We're going to discuss more of this game in segment number 2. Look around the league and just continue to talk about what the Panthers do at the upcoming trade deadline. But first, we're going to tell you all about Built Bar. And we got a delicious treat, but look, are you looking for a delicious treat but don't want to sacrifice all the taste? Then you gotta try Built Bar. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're covering 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I'm not sure how Built does it, but they taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. And you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars at Built.com. Now you can get yours at a local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today. Walk to the pharmacy section and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, and coconut puffs. If you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter and churro. You can thank me later. Segment number 2 here on this Fairbanks Friday edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, where the Florida Panthers are coming off a 2-1 loss against the Nashville Predators at home. So, Nick, it's funny because I hate using puck luck as an excuse for the Panthers, but the times that they did get their chances, really in the second period, was really their chances were coming on the rush. Something that was eliminated in the first period for the Panthers, because they were seeing that the dump and chase game was not going well for them. And listen, if your GMs around the league, or even Bill Zito, when you look at how that goal was created, it was created by Radko Gudas in the Panthers zone. A bump that helps cause the turnover, and then off to the races on a 3-on-1 with Ryan Lomberg and Brandon Montour score before the Panthers scored. Outside of that, Panthers had multiple rushes after that, a good sequence in the second period, and even in the third period, the Nashville Predators didn't get their first shot on goal until 13 minutes in, neither, and they were playing the trap game too for them. But if you're GMs around the NHL, you got to be looking at that and saying, maybe this is a guy that I could add to my team at the trade deadline. Or if you're Bill Zito, you're thinking, maybe this is a guy that I can still see as part of a run. But honestly, with this loss, I don't know how this team makes a run. I really don't know.
They haven't shown it all season. Let's be honest. They're not consistent. The only consistent thing that they are is inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that the Chicago Blackhawks have put up more wins, like 3-game winning streaks, and I think Florida's only had one. Says a lot, and they're legit a lottery team. They are selling everybody, like everybody.
Max Domi just got traded.
Yeah, if you put it, I swear, whoever scored tonight for them is probably going to get traded tomorrow. That's how badly they want to get Bedard. But I would love to keep Radko, to be honest with you. I think for all his faults and everything, he's been a very positive mainstay on the back, on the back six. He plays well with Josh Mahura. He's played well with anybody who he's played with. And he's a physical presence. I know he's getting up there, so he's not going to fight. I mean, he's never really been a fighter, but he's still that factor that can really change the complexity of a game. If the Panthers end up letting him go, they got to find a way to replace him, and that's going to be a tough ask. I mean, are you going to go get a veteran? Are you going to look for somebody like Luke Shen in the offseason, or is Luke Shen going to sign with Toronto? Just a lot of questions and a lot of things you got to fill, if you start trading some guys. And I'm just glad I'm not in Bill Zito's seat right now.
Yeah, because, of course, a few things differently that we probably would have done, of course, is the Ben Sherratt deal. But and this year, who's the version of the Florida Panthers this year? It's the New York Rangers, with getting Tarasenko and Patrick Kane, with how they're loading up. Now, of course, the Rangers acquired 2 forwards, while the Panthers acquired a forward and a defenseman last year in Giroux and Sherratt. So, but as far as loading up, that's where I'm getting at here.
Okay.
So, and we knew that when those trades happened, that the Florida Panthers had an opportunity to fall flat on their face after.
Oh, yeah.
And now here we are, one trade deadline later, just over 12 hours now. Panthers are one of only 3 teams to not make a move. Florida, Anaheim, which is a surprise because I thought John Klingberg would have been traded already. Maybe some retained salary has a lot to do with it. And the Calgary Flames, which the Calgary Flames are fighting for their playoff lives too. It's crazy. The Calgary Flames and the Florida Panthers, 2 teams involved in the biggest blockbuster trade in the offseason, have still not made a move as of now. I mean, maybe they did in the middle of the game, but I haven't checked recently. But as of now, they haven't made a move.
Well, you have to think that maybe one team might have a little bit of buyer's remorse, just a little. And then the other one is just, again, they are reaping what they sowed last season. Bill Zito went for it, which 100% should have done. I mean, when you have a chance at a cup and to go far in the playoffs, you got to do everything you can to put that team in position to accomplish that. If he would have done nothing, or maybe he would have just gotten Giroux and not a defender, I guarantee you some of the fans would not be very happy with him at all. You can say what you want, what he gave up for Sherratt. He had to do it. I understand that trades this year are not, some of them are very lopsided. I mean, we're not going to talk about Tampa's trade of 5 picks for that guy for, Jeannot? That's crazy. But you just there's no way that they can make a move right now unless they're just going to get rid of somebody for a mid pick, and it just doesn't make sense to do that. They knew that this year was going to be a write-off, so why are you going to get rid of some assets that could bounce back next year and that the team will take a step forward next year, especially with more cap space, possibly some trades this offseason. So, I mean, as annoying as it is, and it's like, as a fan, watching all these teams make these moves, you're seeing Toronto, New York, and Boston load up. Like, it's awesome for the game. Like, this is better than the NBA trade deadline. I mean, that's one of the big talking points right now. But this is what was the plan. Like, we're standing pat. There's no reason to rush something and, I guess, get rid of the future or, ruin the future. Sacrifice one season to have many seasons of success after this.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I know while we're going through it and with the roster crunch and the cap crunch, it's also very easy to point at the coach. And listen, I'm not going to pretend like I'm a Palmieri stan. needs it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to pretend that, but I do. But I'm not going to sit here and say after one season that he is as good as toast. If the Panthers were at like 10 points out at this moment in time at the trade deadline, we're likely talking about a different story. But maybe like 10 or 15 games, kind of like how Gerard Gallant was into the 2017 season. That might be a different look to see, hey, what can you do with this improved roster that at least we hope with more cap space. The Bobrovsky contract isn't as big of an anchor because let's face it, he's going to stay here for at least one more year. So
considering what's going on right now,
yeah. So I just can't sit here every single day. I know Panther fans on Twitter are just screaming for him to be let go, but I just can't sit here after that and just scream into this microphone to just let him go right then and there after the circumstances were going to be difficult to begin with roster wise.
Yeah, I mean, Zito said it. They knew that this year was going to be rough and that they had to just get through it. They had to get through it with minimal damage. And, that's talking about injuries, major injuries to, the core or the players that they want to be here long term. And then secondly, you have to think about the mentality of the team as well. Was this season going to, break them, as, a collective group? And sometimes you may think like tonight, I don't think they had it with them. I don't think that they were very interested, especially watching that first period. But then you see them come out in the second period and really care and really start to like pull things together. This team hasn't given up. They know that the playoffs are right there, but it's not being consistent that's holding them back. Like, why can't you do this for a couple games at a time or just know that you guys have this ability? And they can't put it together right now. So hopefully next season coming into a roster that's healthy. Hopefully Barkov's going to be fully healed from whatever's ailing him right now. Hopefully Bob won't be, hurt. Hopefully we'll see Spencer Knight back in some fashion. Maybe he'll be able to get over or get healed from what's ailing him. And then, hopefully we have some new defenders on the back, six, just because I don't know who we're going to keep. Ekblad's probably going to stay. I have my opinions about that. Forsling's definitely going to stay. Montour is going to stay. We don't know what's going to happen with Gudis. Stahl's not coming back, to be honest with you, unless he signs, like, again, a league minimum.
Mahura got extended.
Mahura got extended. And, I haven't been too, disappointed with Fitzpatrick. Or
Fitzgerald.
Yeah, Fitzgerald. I'm sorry. Fitzgerald. And, just if he's not making any mistakes or not making any loud plays or whatever, then usually you're playing good defense. So we'll just have to see what happens this summer to really see like what the plans are. And I do believe Zito's got some things, that he wants to do.
Mm. And you know what? When the draft does come and go in 2023, you're one step closer to your first round pick again, which isn't until 2026. I understand that.
Yeah.
But you're 1 year closer to regaining those assets back in order to make a move to bring someone who is under contract. So that's a little bit of the bright side of that. I know it's hard to realize it now after a loss that holds you back a little bit, but that's kind of like how I'm starting to see it. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we're going to discuss the scoreboard watch around the wild card race for the Panthers, and we're just gonna prepare for Saturday as the Panthers will play yet another swing game with 19 games left on the season. But first, we're gonna tell you all about Indeed. And no matter how the last game went, anytime you take the field, you got a shot at greatness. Give your team the best shot at winning by recruiting more MVPs with Indeed. If you're hiring, you need Indeed, because Indeed is the hiring partner where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. And Indeed is the only job site where you're guaranteed to find quality applications to meet your must-have requirements, or else you don't pay. Indeed partners with you in every step of the hiring process. Find great talent through time-saving tools like Indeed Instant Match Assessment and virtual interviews. Indeed makes it easy to hire great talent according to ComScore. Indeed is the #1 job site worldwide. Start hiring right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job posts at Indeed.com/lockedon. Valid offer through March 31st. Go to Indeed.com/lockedon to claim your $75 credit before March 31st. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. The NHL trade deadline is Friday, March 3rd. Join us live on the Locked On NHL YouTube channel from 2 to 4 p.m. as Locked On NHL hosts break down the biggest deals from across the league. Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Third and final segment here on this Fairbanks Friday edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. And just this was a big game, not as far as swing games, Nick, but as far as the scoreboard watch for the Panthers as well. You know, you get 1 point closer, which the Islanders were the only team that were idle tonight. Pittsburgh wins in overtime against Tampa Bay. Boston destroys Buffalo 7-1. Ottawa in Patrick Kane's New York Rangers debut goes in and beats the New York Rangers 4-3. And I believe Detroit won.
They lost in overtime.
Oh, they lost. They lost to Seattle in overtime, so they get a point.
Yep.
So, and they traded Tyler Bertuzzi to the Boston Bruins too. After being swept in a back-to-back against the Ottawa Senators, and the Ottawa Senators made a big trade just the other day, bringing in Jacob Chikrin from the Arizona Coyotes. This had been a story brewing for a season and a half now. Sat out for trade-related reasons. They had to get rid of him. There was no way that he was going to go through that trade deadline and come back into that locker room. And the Arizona Coyotes got greedy. And look what happened. An underwhelming return. And now on the Ottawa Senators, you have a Tkachuk and a Chikrin. It's funny because on the Florida Panthers side, you have a Tkachuk, but also a Chikrin, but not on the team.
Correct. Yeah.
But with these moves happening, of course, with the wild card race, of course, Bo Horvat, with him being on the Islanders, even without Matt Barzal, he's helping that team stay afloat, along with, of course, great goaltending in Ilya Sorokin. But man, even if the Ottawa Senators don't make the postseason, they're set up so well. This isn't a move just for this year. But if they do make it, it's one hell of a bonus for them because they didn't give up much for DeBrincat. He hasn't even gotten a new contract yet. I think what's holding him back is what's going to go on with their new ownership. But the fact that they didn't pay a hefty price for Jacob Chikrin too, and they had negotiations in the offseason too, the Senators and the Coyotes too. So this isn't the first time they've talked. So I still think it's going to be Penguins, Islanders, as of right now. That's going to be your two wild card teams in the Eastern Conference, unless Florida just goes absolutely bananas. But only 1 3-game winning streak.
No,
I'm not seeing it.
No, and the only thing that's going to hold Ottawa back, in my opinion, right now is goaltending. They have till tomorrow to address it. I don't think Cam Talbot's going to be the answer. He's been a journeyman throughout his career. And I don't who else do they have up there? They have
Anton Forsberg hurt right now. They did bring some rookie up. His name's Mad Sogard. He got rookie of the month, I believe.
He won all its games, I think.
Yeah.
They're on a hot. They're getting hot at the right time. And the owner, or not the owner, but the GM Dorian is basically keeping his word to Claude Giroux, basically saying we are going to get some extra players in here to help push, just because we know that we need more of caliber players like you. And Jacob Chikrin is one of those players. Now, it's very interesting to me to see that Jonathan Quick was moved off of a playoff team, moved to Columbus, and then Columbus flipped him to Vegas. makes me wonder if there's going to be another goalie that's going to go that same way, but it's going to be really quick tomorrow. I would look for who would be available. I thought it was interesting that Saros didn't play tonight, but I don't think he's really on the block. I think they're going to try and build a little bit more around him. I can't think of another goaltender that would probably go up there and fix their problems. But they're as you said, they're set up really well, and hopefully, for them, they can make a push here, make the playoffs, and then they can extend that into next season. Obviously not for Florida's sake, but it would be a fun, good story. Going from where they were under their previous owner who had passed, under Dorian now, who's kind of like been freed from that, able to make moves and spend a little bit of money to turn this team around.
Oh, can you hear me? Oh,
Yep.
all right.
Now I can hear you.
Sorry, Mike was muted there, but there's a reason why certain GMs, when it comes to negotiating, when the Arizona Coyotes were negotiating with the Pittsburgh Penguins about Jacob Chikrin, they wanted to get their 2025 and 26 first round picks. Why? Because those would be the end of Crosby and Malkin's contracts. So they were trying to fool Pittsburgh in those picks being high by the time the arena gets built. But Ron Hextall was not having any of that. No way he was going to have any of that, and saying no, we're not gonna trade this much of futures when they're going to need those picks, assuming that Crosby and Malkin leave. I'm not sure if Letang plays the rest of his contract. He has a 6-year deal. So it's just they got bit. That's for sure.
Well, at least he's smart enough not to give away those picks yet. He'll give up a third rounder for Granlund, who can't score really that much anymore. He's a good defender, and he's also making him $5 million. Not the smartest move, but maybe he just needed somebody else to come in and play some defense and really help the Pittsburgh Penguins shut it down from game to game. But I think the Coyotes held on to Chikrin a little bit too long. I think they could have gotten a king's ransom for him if they let him go a little bit sooner. But I think the telltale sign is when LA decided not to pull the trigger. And then all the other teams went in and got their defensemen and just basically left Arizona out of everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we spoke about earlier about Matthias Ekholm, even though Ekholm's style of play probably fits Edmonton more because they don't need a puck moving defenseman. They need defensemen who could protect the house.
Yes,
too.
Correct.
And crazy how a trade deadline, I saw a post from Puck Empire about 3 players who were moved that were with a team for over a decade, and they were moved in this trade deadline. Jonathan Quick, Patrick Kane, Matthias Ekholm. And now Jonathan Quick is on the Vegas Golden Knights. I know he's not the same goalie from 2012 and 14, but you talk about with Robin Leonard not playing this season, Laurent Brossoit's hurt as well. This could be a boost for Vegas as they are currently leading the Pacific Division.
They are, and guess who is just behind them?
The Los Angeles Kings.
Wouldn't that be something if they played each other in the playoffs and you see him start for Vegas? You don't think he won't be amped up, ready for that?
Oh, yeah, he will.
I mean, talk about like I think, played the last game and he was on the flight home with the team and he gets the phone call or he finds out, man, like that's just, come on. Like, you couldn't wait until like the team landed or whatever to like let a guy know, but I don't know. I can understand that Columbus is like, hey, I want to get this done now. Let's let go of Korpisalo and who was the other guy, the
Gavrikov.
defenseman, Gavrikov. Yeah, they wanted to get it done. I think they needed a defenseman, and unfortunately, Quick was the odd man out on that one. And to me, you don't treat a player like that.
Yeah.
Especially a guy who basically, in my opinion, carried you to 2 cups.
Absolutely. So yeah, just a crazy deadline to say the least. And got to give credit to the Columbus Blue Jackets Twitter for that post saying don't miss Jonathan Quick, even though it was a quick tenure. So really funny post from the Blue Jackets on that one. But Nick, I want to thank you so much for jumping on this episode of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. It wasn't a pretty one for the Panthers. We're just over 12 hours from the trade deadline as of this recording at 10:44 p.m. Eastern on a Thursday night. But tell everybody where they can follow you online.
Thanks for having me on, Armando. Again, it's been a tough last couple shows. I think we kind of had the what do you want to call it? The we basically had the obituary written for the team or for the season last week, and now had our hopes up after Tampa, and now coming in tonight and laying an egg like they did. Hasn't been fun, but it's always great to talk with you and go over the Panthers. Everybody can follow me at Prudentia0. I did put out a tweet saying, hey, talking about the whole situation with Bill Zito and stuff like that. Go ahead and read it, comment on it, and let me know what you think. And, I can't wait to be back next Thursday. Hopefully we got some extra moves or some exciting news to go over.
Definitely. And I hope we're definitely there to hopefully maybe the Panthers go on a run. Maybe we'll be talking about them selling. Who knows what we'll be talking about then. But Nick, thank you so much. And I will see you next week.
Thank you. See you.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. And for your second listen of the day, make sure you listen to today's episode of Locked On Sports Today. Peter Bukowski gives you a 30-minute or less podcast on the entirety of the sports scene. Follow Locked On Sport podcast. So I'm Armando Velez with Nick Fairbanks, and you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On podcast team every day.